Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner.
In our top story, the United States is ramping up pressure on the Palestinian Authority to return to the peace talks with Israel. The White House ordered that the PLO office in Washington be shut down due to Ramallah's steadfast rejection of American mediation efforts. The decision also comes in response to PA actions against Israel at the International Criminal Court in The Hague in a deliberate violation of a 2015 mandate by the U.S. Congress. Moreover, National Security Advisor John Bolton warned that Washington will sanction the ICC if it opens investigations involving alleged war crimes by either Israel or America. Such punitive measures could include barring judges and prosecutors from entering the U.S., as well as asset freezes. Bolton stressed that Washington supports a direct and robust peace process and that it will not allow the ICC or any other organization to constrain Israel's right to self-defense. He added that the United States will always stand with our friend and ally Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu welcomed the move and thanked the U.S. for taking a clear stance in the matter.
The Palestinian Authority, however, has responded with fury to the shutting of its D.C. office. Top PA negotiator Saeb Erekat accused the administration of U.S. President Donald Trump of engaging in political blackmail, extortion, and the collective punishment of the Palestinian people, whom he vowed will never succumb to such bullying and threats. Hussam Zomlat, who heads the PLO delegation to the U.S., pledged that not only will the Palestinians double their efforts at the International Criminal Court, but they will also try to bypass the Trump administration in efforts to reach out directly to the American people.
Iranian President Hassan Rouhani has also turned up the rhetoric against the U.S. and Israel and accused both of supporting rebel forces in Syria. The fiery radical Islamist leader made the verbal attacks during recent talks with his Russian and Turkish counterparts. The trilateral summit was convened in Tehran to discuss the military assault against the town of Idlib, which is the last major stronghold of active opposition to Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Military experts believe the battle for Idlib could be the last decisive campaign of the 7-year-long civil war. Israeli leaders have repeatedly stated that a permanent Iranian presence just over its northern border will not be tolerated.
And in a rare public acknowledgement, a top Israeli official has announced that the country has carried out more than 200 attacks against Iranian targets in Syria over the past 2 years. The statements by National Intelligence Minister Israel Katz indicate that on average such operations take place at a rate of almost twice a week. According to regional sources, Israel began carrying out military strikes in Syria in 2013 against suspected arms transfers and deployments by Iranian forces and their Lebanese Hezbollah allies. Both Shiite Muslim entities are partnered with Damascus. Jerusalem monitors Iranian military developments intensively to prevent Tehran from establishing a threat to its security. This past week, Israeli Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman signaled that a weapons site in Iraq, where Tehran is believed to have deployed ballistic missiles capable of striking Tel Aviv, could also be targeted. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered the closure of his nation's embassy in Asuncion after Paraguay decided to move its own diplomatic headquarters out of Jerusalem and back to Tel Aviv. The reversal was handed down by the new president in the South American country, Mario Abdo Benitez, in a complete turnabout on the initiative of his predecessor, Horacio Cartes, less than 4 months ago. Paraguay was the third country to relocate its embassy to Jerusalem last May, following the United States and Guatemala. A crowd of local protesters also gathered outside Abdo's residence in a show of anger over Paraguay's withdrawal from the Israeli capital.
Britain's opposition Labour Party has finally adopted an internationally accepted definition of antisemitism in an attempt to diffuse increasing allegations that it harbors an anti-Jewish platform. Controversial leader Jeremy Corbyn and his supporters on Labour's National Executive Committee had long refused to fully commit to guidelines on the definition set by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. Corbyn, who surprisingly became Labour head in 2015 after decades spent on the left-wing fringes, has repeatedly faced accusations of turning a blind eye to anti-Semitic activity, both in the party as well as among groups he supports. So-called pledges by the pro-Muslim politician to eradicate anti-Jewish sentiments have done little to appease his detractors, and many continue to demand that Corbyn step down.
A new bakery in Amsterdam has bowed to public pressure and will no longer be called Anne and Frank. The owner was vilified on social media for having named his business after the Jewish Holocaust victim to attract customers. The site is located near the Anne Frank House Museum, where the young girl wrote her now famous diary while hiding with her family from the Nazis 1942 to 1944. After their ultimate discovery, Anne, her mother, sister, and 4 other Jews living at the secret annex died in German concentration camps. Critics of the Dutch bakery said that the use of Anne's name for such opportunistic purposes was simply a disgrace.
Jewish leaders in Sweden are increasingly worried over anti-Semitic violence. Following an emergency meeting with Swedish police and security officials, the chairman of the Stockholm Jewish community, Aron Verstandig, said it's clear that Jews face threats from both right and left-wing extremists, as well as from violent Islamists. The largest gain of any party in the recent national election was by the Sweden Democrats faction, which is rooted in white supremacist and neo-Nazi movements. It surged from 12.9% to 17.6% and is now the country's 3rd largest party. Meanwhile, the Gatestone Institute for International Relations says Swedish municipalities are using taxpayer money to fund anti-Semitic activity. The allegations were based on research by Nima Gholam Alpour, who is a Board of Education member in the city of Malmö. The money is allegedly transferred both directly and covertly to anti-Jewish movements such as Group 194, which promotes anti-Semitic propaganda on social media and facilitates lectures by pro-Palestinian activists in Swedish schools.
Amazon has just agreed to block any accounts that try to hawk Nazi and overtly racist memorabilia. The retail giant announced that it will remove the sale of items such as swastika pendants, as well as those bearing white supremacist symbols like baby onesies with Burning Cross logos. Amazon Vice President of Public Policy Brian Huseman said the move was taken in response to complaints from advocacy groups, and added that his company prohibits the listing of any products which promote or glorify hatred, violence, or intolerance.
There has been increasing concern over massive pollution of the world's oceans after studies reveal that the vast majority of the 6.3 billion tons of plastic waste produced since the 1950s has ended up in the water. Israeli scientists are now taking an innovative approach to protecting marine life and cleaning up the beach at the same time. A research team at the University of Haifa is developing a filter made out of jellyfish mucus that can be used to isolate and filter microplastic waste out of the seawater. The efforts are part of the international Go Jelly project, which is being funded by the European Union's Horizon 2020 program.
As is traditional at the start of the new year, Israel's Central Bureau of Statistics released the national population figures. There are now 8.9 million citizens in the country, which is 162,000 more than a year ago. 175,000 babies were born, and there were 25,000 new immigrants. The Jewish sector of 6.6 million souls now makes up 74.4% of the public, while nearly 21%, or 1.8 million, are Arab citizens. 4.7% belong to other minority groups. Average life expectancy in Israel remains among the highest in the world. Men on average live till almost 81, and women to nearly 85. The country's population is projected to reach 10 million by the year 2024. And the best news of all is that a whopping 89% of all citizens reported that they are very happy with their lives in the tiny Jewish state.
In his annual greeting to the public on the occasion of the Rosh Hashanah New Year, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the Jewish people are united not only by their past, but by a shared and profound support for liberty and pluralism. He expressed faith in the Jewish future and spoke of the everlasting bond among all Jews worldwide that remains above all differences. The premier went on to hail the many remarkable achievements since the tragedy of the Holocaust and said the Jewish state is today being courted by countries large and small, which almost revere Israel for its enlightened and advanced character.
The Jewish people will begin the observance of the Day of Atonement this week on the evening of September 18th. Yom Kippur is the holiest day on the Jewish calendar, and it is observed by fasting and praying for forgiveness. During the 10 days leading up to Yom Kippur, Jews repent and request absolution for any wrongdoing from others, so that by the Day of Atonement they will be humbled to ask forgiveness from God.
We at Israel Now News wish all of our viewers a Happy New Year and pray that God will continue to protect Israel.
And we encourage all of our viewers to continue to pray with us for the peace of Jerusalem. That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein, and we're here in a beautiful sunny day in Jerusalem on our rooftop studio. My guest today is Dovi Mazel. He is the Vice President of United Hatzalah. Dovi, thanks for being on the show. Dovi, tell our viewers a little bit about what is United Hatzalah.
So United Hatzalah is a community-based human network operation of volunteers that are in your community and are there to save lives by bridging that gap from the occurrence of the emergency, from the accident, the heart attack, to the appearance of the help right there. It's basically your neighbor next door saving your life.
It's really amazing. You know, we've had emergencies in my community, and within 2 to 3 minutes, there's someone there, which is really the difference sometimes in disasters. How does this affect, helping people in need?
Well, it's actually it's really a no-brainer. It's a system of just getting the community engaged and taking responsibility, because we believe that you're supposed to care. It's not only about counting on the authorities or the agencies that provide the services, but us as a society have a responsibility to care for our neighbor. It's a Judeo-Christian value that we both share, and it's about saving that person who's in need right there. And ambulances take time, we all know that. There never will be able to be an ambulance on every street. But what we do have on every street is people. And if we can get all those people engaged and involved, we're making that difference of saving lives.
So what's the process? How do you get someone who has no medical training to the point where they can come into your house and save you before the ambulance gets there?
So it's actually quite simple. We go out into the community via social media, community centers, and call the people and say, listen, do you care about your neighbor? Do you want to take responsibility? And we will provide full EMT or paramedic training. We'll provide you with equipment and, of course, state-of-the-art technology of an app that will connect everyone in a human network, but with technology that will notify you when there's an emergency right nearby you.
What about lawsuits? Aren't you worried that someone will come in and they won't do a good enough job and then someone will sue United Hatzalah?
So liability is always a question, especially coming from the U.S., but we found that, first of all, Good Samaritan laws are very strong, both here and in the U.S. and in many other places as well, that protect the volunteers. Of course, we have insurance, but based off of 13 years of operations here and over 3 million people that were treated in Israel, from all different communities, we have not had one lawsuit on malpractice. Of course, we try to keep our professional level as high as possible.
Well, give us some examples of successes. What are some of the statistics out there?
So first of all, statistic-wise, we're talking about a network of 5,000 volunteers. And when I say volunteers, it connects to the name of the organization, which is United Hatzalah. Hatzalah means rescue. And what are we uniting? We're uniting the different walks of life of people in Israel. And 5,000 volunteers respond to over 1,000 calls every single day with an average response time of just under 3 minutes. 3 minutes. And in certain cities in Israel, we're down to 90-second response. That's our goal, to get to in every city. So if it's a choking child, someone suffering a heart attack, we have hundreds of cases every single day that the appearance and the arrival of a professional responder within that 3-minute gap provides that life-saving operation.
What about something like a terror attack? Does United Hatzalah take a part in that, or do you leave that more to Magen David Adom or the paramedics?
So it's actually quite simple, just like any other incident. Of course, we're there in the terror attacks. In many cases, we're there while the terror attack is still occurring, because our force of people are the people in the community. So they're right there when it happens. There has not been one terror attack that has not been responded to by the hundreds of and thousands of the volunteers in Israel throughout the country. Our responders are always there trying to save that life of the person.
This is one of the most successful medical initiatives in Israel's history. Do you see this happening in other countries as well?
So actually yes, our president and founder, Eli Beer, did an amazing job of presenting this concept on the TED platform, which brought this concept globally. And today, the model of community-based response, utilizing technology, people, and goodwill, together with unique ambucycles, which are motorcycles that respond, and other technologies that we use, are now being adopted in over 20 countries around the world, understanding that the person right there is the one that can be saved.
What is the future of United Hatzalah? You say we have 5,000 volunteers here in Israel. What do you think is going to happen in the next 10 years with this?
So our goal is to get that 90-second response throughout Israel, but not only, because it's not only about the people of Israel. As our president always says, this is Israel's gift to the world. If we can share this and bring it to communities throughout the world, understanding that human life is the most sacred thing, we could come together and adopt this model in any community. All we need is goodwill of people there that will lead this program forward.
One of the things that people know about is Magen David Adom. It's like the Jewish Red Cross. How do you work with them?
Well, it works pretty simple. The Magen David Adom is the government ambulance service, and what happens is, as soon as they get a call, it immediately, through the technology, connects to our system and to our volunteers, which are in the field right next to the incident, and it will dispatch them simultaneously to the incident. We're the buffer, we're the community buffer there to bridge that gap until they get to the scene.
You know, we hear about the volunteers here in Israel, and Israel is a real community. Is there something inherent Israeli about this idea that so many people are willing to help and step in and bridge the gap?
Well, I think, like you said, inherently it's a community thing in Israel. There's a huge volunteerism spirit here, but I found that no matter where, people are people. And the human will to help is always there. All you got to do in certain places sometimes is just ignite that light over there and get people involved. In the US, there's huge volunteerism spirit, and we find more and more communities joining into this concept, and in other places in the world. We want to share and simplify the process so they can take part in this as well.
Some people believe that the melting pot in Israel, the community, is based on the fact that everyone does military service. Does military service come into play when helping in this, or medics from the army helping in the United Hatzalah?
Well, of course, maybe the most basic level is those medics that are discharged from the army will join as volunteers in the community, but being United Hatzalah, United Rescue, uniting the people, it's not only about military. We have people from the Jewish and non-Jewish Muslim communities around the country. Everyone is taking part of this human initiative, a human network of lifesavers, regardless of if you do military or not. We find an amazing byproduct of this amazing movement of this organization is building bridges in the communities between the Jewish and Muslim and Christian communities in Israel with one uncontroversial mission, and that is saving lives.
So let me get this straight. You come into the homes of someone who's having an emergency, and then you take care of them until the Magen David Adom comes, and then they bring them to the hospitals. Is there any direct contact between the people who give the first care and the hospitals for United Hatzalah?
Well, yeah, absolutely. First of all, the first responder from United Hatzalah will respond to the call, come into the home, start CPR, stop the bleed, help that choking child. And in the meantime, we know the ambulance is on the way from Magen David Adom. It'll take them a few minutes. They'll get there. We'll hand over, assist with whatever help they need to treat the patient, whether it's carrying them down from the upper floor or whatever it is, and hand over towards the hospital. In certain cases, if we'll be doing the transport as well, then we'll be talking directly to the hospital, informing them, preparing the ER, OR, or cath lab.
David, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
Well, first of all, to understand that there is a lot of power in the community. If we look at ways connecting people to get the traffic easier to work, or Uber, getting people from one place to another using technology. We're taking the same technology and will of the people to save lives. And we're doing it here in Israel, saving thousands and thousands of people every year. And it can be done anywhere in the world with just goodwill and connecting the communities together.
Thank you, Dovey, for being on the show. And thanks for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, wishing you a meaningful Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the return to Zion with Karen Ayasod.
Hello and welcome to the Return to Zion with Karen Ayasod. I'm Eliezer Moody Sandberg, World Chairman of Keren HaYesod, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. It was foretold that the children of Israel would return to their land on the wings of eagles. This is why it was so important for Keren HaYesod to support the establishment of Israel's first airline. I hope you enjoy. God bless you from Jerusalem.
The divine promise of bringing the children of Israel to their land was given to Moses at the foot of Mount Sinai. I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to me, as it is written in the book of Exodus, is a prophecy that has sparked the immigration for 3,000 years. And with the establishment of the Zionist movement and the State of Israel, it has begun to be fulfilled. Eagles made of steel of El Al Airlines have taken to the skies of the Holy Land, carrying with them hundreds of thousands of new immigrants to Israel. They have come from Yemen and Iraq, from North Africa and Ethiopia, from Russia and Ukraine. El Al, Israel's flagship carrier, was established with the support of the donors of Keren HaYesod, a global organization authorized by the Israeli government to raise funds for Israel's most important priority projects. Most urgent is the task of bringing Jews to Israel from countries of distress where they face danger. Just after Israel's establishment, nearly 50,000 Jews were brought to Israel from the ancient Yemenite Jewish community. In 1951 and 1952, more than 130,000 Jews from Iraq were brought home to safety in Israel. El Al Airlines was a key player in these airlifts and in waves of immigration since. Perhaps no one better epitomizes Israel's immigration story than Aryeh Oz. He was accepted into the pilot school of the Israel Air Force and earned his pilot's wings in 1956, and after completing his military service, joined El Al Airlines. He returned to the Air Force in 1991 to fly a jumbo jet taking Ethiopian Jews home to Israel in Operation Solomon.
We were about to evacuate 14,500 Ethiopian Jews from Addis Ababa to Tel Aviv. I flew a 747. We had 760 seats, and I sat on the floor between the seats. We had 1,087 souls on board. I said it's our obligation as the Jewish people to bring everybody to Israel. I felt so happy, that I took part in an operation like this. When we descended and came over Jerusalem, there was not one person in the cockpit who had no tears in his eyes.
For nearly 100 years, Keren HaYesod's vision has turned the dream of the return of the Jewish people to Israel into reality and remains at the center of efforts to sustain and develop a flourishing Jewish homeland in fulfillment of biblical prophecy.
Every time that when I made my walk around in order to see that the aircraft is serviceable, I always looked up and saw the Star of David and said to myself, gee, I'm flying El Al. This is El Al. This is Israel. This is the Jewish people.
Let's bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, call us at 1-800-505-1665 or visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
To all our Jewish brothers and sisters around the world, happy Rosh Hashanah. We've accomplished so much in the past year, but really in the past 70 years. A few weeks ago, I went to Lithuania for the first time. My family came from Lithuania. There was a thriving Jewish community there of brilliant people, rabbis, scientists, doctors, poets. And on two separate occasions during World War II, that community was taken en masse to death pits 15 minutes from Vilnius. And they were shot and thrown into these pits of fire. We've come so far. I came back to Vilnius at the head of a Jewish state that is looked up to, it's almost revered, a progressive, enlightened, advanced Jewish state that is now being courted by countries large and small. I believe in the Jewish future. I believe in the future of the Jewish state. And as I go around the world in every country and I meet Jewish communities, I believe in the Jewish future. Our people are united not only by common past, but by a common and burning support and reverence for liberty, for pluralism, for debate. That's one thing Jews do very well, they debate. We do it so well. In fact, a few days ago, I met with a group that developed the IBM debater right here in Haifa in Israel. And this debater apparently beats any human debater. Well, we'll see about that. They haven't tried every one of us. But as we debate, we remember our common heritage and our commitment to our common future and our common values of liberty, of inquiry, of ensuring the Jewish future, of contributing to the betterment of the world. And Israel and the Jewish people are doing all that. So I have one request from you, two requests actually. First, reach out to a fellow Jew, embrace him or her, understand that above all our differences is this great commonality. And second, come to Israel. Come for a visit. Stay. But first come. Next year in Jerusalem. See you here soon.
Lift up your eyes and look around. All your children gather and come to you. The biblical prophecy is unfolding right before our very eyes. The people of Israel are returning to the Promised Land after 2,000 years of exile. But millions of Jews are still longing to come home. Antisemitism threatens many of the Jews. We must rescue them before the window of opportunity slams shut. Bless Israel by supporting Keren Hayesod United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Together, we can fulfill the prophecy of the Bible.
Let us bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, call us at 1-800-505-1665 or visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.